Let me step back from that and look at what's involved in pedagogy and where assessment feeds into it. And the first bit is you decide the learning aims. The second bit is you select and plan activities. That's what the teacher does. Third bit is you implement them, particularly in the classroom, which is the difficult bit. Fourth bit, the review, informal summative assessment, the end of topic tests. Even a piece of written work is a review to see whether they can now write about what's being discussed. And then the formal summative tests, and there's a boundary there between those last two. And the question is the formal tests, summative tests, still outside it and something completely different, or can that be integrated into the process also? So we're trying to get a holistic view of pedagogy in which assessment plays a part. And those five, of course, don't go in one order without influencing one another. You can go back from a classroom implementation and start with a different activity because the first one didn't work. You could go back from an informal summative assessment to going over and repeating something. What I think is worthy of emphasis, less obvious, and that is one of the things where places where things go wrong are right at the beginning. Decide the learning aims. It is very easy to set down broad learning aims and then move on and leave it to somebody else to sort out what they mean. The issue is, what matters is what do they mean. And in fact, one of the rules that some groups have set up is that you should, at that first stage, write down the assessment items, activities and tests and whatever that will be used to check out that you've achieved those aims. Because only when you make it concrete are you forced to think about what you mean by those grand phrases. That sounds like teaching to the test, some have objected, and I say, yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with teaching to the test or the assessment, provided it's a good test or assessment. The design must be integral, not a bit stuck at the end under E, which nobody quite thought through when they set up A. And that's a key thing, and that says that what we now need to do, or what I'm going to do anyway, sorry, is after looking at assessment for learning, we're going to look at summative assessment and try to explain this notion of redemption via teacher ownership. The point being, unless teachers own part of the problem, it won't be put right, it won't play its proper place in pedagogy. And the fourth bit about system support and development will come later. So what's involved? Well, if one thinks about teachers' summative assessments, you must first of all take account of the fact that they're happening all the time. Whether they're externally imposed, externally encouraged or whatever, teachers are using summative assessments to make decisions about teaching sets from year to year, perhaps halfway through a year, to provide information for the next teacher of the same pupils, to report within a school up to a senior management team, to report to parents, to give a summative report to parents about their pupils, and for guiding the pupil themselves. So they're used to make decisions, so their quality matters. And what about the quality of teachers' summative assessment month to month, term to term, year to year? Do we pay enough attention to how good those are? And one of the projects that I and colleagues at King's were involved in with a group of teachers was about the quality of their summative assessments and how they could improve that quality, because when they had time to sit together, teachers from the same subject from different schools, to talk about it, describe what they did, it turned out that they weren't proud of what they were doing. They were following a routine, partly from the domination of external tests. So the first way to break through that, we found, was to ask teachers to talk about what it meant to be good at their subject, the validity. Here's a teacher reflecting on that work. The project made me think more critically about what exactly I was assessing. The first question I remember being asked, what does it mean to be good at English, gave me a different perspective on assessment. I find myself continually returning to this question. So that turned out to be a key question. We thought about it in desperation, thinking how can we restart this discussion because it's not getting anywhere. And in fact, it kicked off a whole set of things. Because once teachers had talked amongst themselves of what are the values of their subject, why am I teaching this, what would be a good outcome to have, and then compared that value system with what was actually being tested in their assessment, they could see a gap. And that established the motivation to do better, at least in those areas of summative assessment where they had control. And one of the things was that one should design some tasks based in the classroom to supplement. This wasn't getting rid of formal tests, only recognizing they can only do part of the job. And part of it was to have some more informal class tasks where you could set up that pupils at the end would have to do a piece on their own and write about it and produce a piece of evidence. And we're thinking about that approach. Immediately the question is, how do we design a good task? And that's quite a significant problem for some teachers. What makes a good task? Well, one is its validity. Does it reflect what it means to be good at the subject? That is, reflect the aims. Does it discriminate across the range? That's a key thing that's difficult to achieve. It's easy to set a task which the bright guys could do and the others are completely lost, or to set one which the others can get somewhere with and the bright guys feel, well, that's so trivial, can't do it. To get one that discriminates across the full range is quite hard. And we found teachers had to work hard on that and develop new skills. And then motivating. You will not learn what pupils are capable of if they think the task is silly and is of no interest to them. And that's a pretty formidable set of requirements. It requires support, it requires teachers working together to exchange ideas and so on.